So I wanted to make this audio recording because I wanted to talk about what can happen to a deceased spirit after the person commits suicide. Um, I wanted to talk about it because beforehand I just wanted to share a couple minutes about a friend of mine, and I talk about him a couple of other videos that I did. So if you want to subscribe or look back at my videos and everything like that, you can see his name was Nick, and I don't even really want to call him a friend because I didn't really know him that well. So this would have been fall quarter when I was going to school outside of state. I went to school outside of state briefly right after I graduated high school, and I realized that whatever I wanted to do, whatever I was studying, it wasn't something that I was interested in pursuing. So after a quarter, I packed up my stuff and I went home. But anyway, I didn't even really know Nick that well. But he was a classmate. He was just somebody that I went to school with. Like, I wouldn't even call him a friend or anything. And he was older than me, and he was finishing up. So about a month after I came down to school there, he and I, like, we had lunch together, like, one time. And then a month later he graduated, and I kind of lost contact with him. So basically what happened in 2007 is Nick graduated from the community college, and then basically in 2008 he joined the military, and he did some tours in Iraq. But that was the last time that I talked to him, because pretty much after he was shipped off to Iraq we kind of lost contact. And we talked over the phone a couple of times, and a couple messages over Facebook, or not Facebook, but MySpace. Back in 2008, MySpace and everything. And then after that, we kind of lost contact of each other. And it's really weird because I wasn't even that close to Nick, and I haven't talked to him since 10 years. 10 years. It was 2008. When he shipped off to Iraq after he joined the military. And then I, for some reason, not even a month ago, so this is probably mid December this is the last month, December of 2017, something just told me, it would be a good idea to kind of do a little bit of research on him. So I put in his name and the city that he was living in and everything, and up came a obituary and everything. It was actually kind of interesting because, like I said, I hadn't talked to him in 10 years, and it was 2008. We didn't even really know each other, but 2008 was the last time that I heard from Nick. And I guess on Halloween of 2017, so that was just a few months ago, just a couple months before I looked him up, he had committed suicide and everything by overdosing on drugs and pills and a bunch of alcohol and stuff like that. He purposely took his own life. So he committed suicide. So I know a really young kid my age who just turned 30, and he committed suicide. So in my personal opinion, and that was pretty interesting because I mean that was sad, and it was interesting. It wasn't that sad, to be honest with you, because I didn't really know him that well, but it was interesting because I finally know somebody now that committed suicide. Anyway, the other thing that I'm going to, so that's my personal situation, and that's kind of why I decided it wasn't until somebody that I knew committed suicide, and I thought, well, maybe I will do a spiritual perspective on it, about suicide. So suicide is the worst thing, spiritually speaking, the worst thing that can happen, because our soul is here to learn lessons, and a lot of people that you meet, and people, mostly parents, friends, and family, and spouses and everything, relationships, that's all completely in our soul contract. And That's why we're here on earth. This is why it isn't heaven. It isn't paradise down here. We have a lot of problems down here that we need to get through, and a lot of obstacles, and that's going to help our soul to grow. And so from a karmic perspective, it's really not a good thing, because first of all, it's not in our soul contracts to ever do that. So I just want to put that out there. Number one, if you commit suicide, you don't get done the goals that you were here to accomplish. So that is cutting off your life short. And number two, as far as karma goes, if you commit suicide and you take your own life, it's not a good thing, because then we come back in the next life, we still have to deal with those issues again and again and again. So in our next lifetime, it's just going to be like dealing with 2 lifetimes of drama, because we never got it right in this lifetime. You don't get to fulfill those goals and going through life if you commit suicide. And then the third issue that I want to touch on, I just kind of want to share a quick story about, for example, what happened, and this kind of relates to video. I was actually talking, this is probably maybe 3 months ago, I was talking with a girlfriend of mine, and her mom committed suicide when she was a little kid. And so this is kind of interesting, because my friend, she personally has known a parent that committed suicide, so she would know firsthand. And she's kind of like me, her beliefs are like me. She doesn't really follow religion, but she's, pretty spiritual, and she's into my tarot cards and everything like that. And she told me that the worst part of it is because if a person commits suicide, then when their spirit gets into heaven, their spirit is still their spirit is not happy. So, if somebody was, let's say, dying of cancer and they're really sick and blah, 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 and then they pass away in their sleep, like 95% of people do, and go into heaven, their spirit is so much happier, and it's pure and innocent and holy, and it's perfect up there. If somebody has a mental illness and commits suicide, they are not a happy spirit, because this is what my friend said. Her words were, quote unquote, they have to keep dealing with their issues, which she would know because her mother committed suicide, and she's kind of spiritual and everything. And so that's something that is really bad, because you have to still keep dealing with the issues, and suicide is never a way out, because if you're having issues, you should get help. And it's not good spiritually, because then you have to keep dealing with the same issues. So that's the third problem. And then the fourth problem that I want to address, I'm not sure if you really believe in this, and I personally don't. I haven't really gone into the concept of this or anything, or yes or no, or decided if I personally believe in it, but they say that if a person commits suicide, then their spirit is going to keep walking the earth, because they had personal issues and they were not able to address those issues, and that they're just really troubled in the head. They didn't get to go through 100 challenges and on earth and fulfill their soul contract and get their needs met and figure things out and grow as a soul. They just it was just way too much for them, and they just thought, I just can't handle this anymore. And so you don't get to learn, you don't go through the school and graduate. It's like they still have these issues because they haven't learned that. So I don't really know too much about earthbound spirits or anything. So they're earthbound spirits, mostly more commonly known as ghosts. So if a person commits suicide, they say that their spirit is still dealing with their issues, and then their ghost is earthbound, and there's another possibility that after people commit suicide, maybe they're not the most happy persons, that they might have been angry, let's say, in a violent situation that was happening. And so that's why the person might be having their own personal issues, and if they don't, that's one thing that can happen, is that their spirit stays earthbound, does not even get into heaven. And so that's one reason, the last reason that I have against suicide.